I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies. I love cookies.
Welcome to Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast. I am Ben Dietrich. Jordan Rodelli is on vacation. And Andrew Kuo, I'm still doing this week after week. You don't take days off. I mean, everyone knows what I'm going to say. Andrew, how are you, dude?
We are around the corner from phase 2, baby. Cannot wait. It's after phase 1 and before phase 3. It's a classic phase 2 run-up. How do you feel?
You have huge phase 2 energy right now. I've noticed that. I couldn't figure out what it was. I knew it wasn't phase 1 and I knew it wasn't phase 3.
It's pretty incredible, man. We're gonna be two-phasing everywhere all week. Can't wait to maybe drop by a bar and maybe get a to-go cup of beer. Maybe stand inside a bar. You can go inside in some bars now, right?
I don't know about all that. I thought it was just for outdoor seating, but I could be wrong.
That sounds about right. I went to a hardware store this week. I think that's phase 1 still. Eyeglass shops are phase 1, but maybe we can dine outside. Maybe we should go get a slice.
You can already do that.
I know.
You are really living like post phase 1 even. I don't even know what phase you're in right now. You're dreaming of pizza slices. They're there. Go get one.
I've had a lot of pizza in the last month,
I know
but
you have.
I was saying we should go get a slice.
Oh, okay. But we can do that phase 1. I want phase 2 activities.
But
real phase 2 energy.
But we did. So I'm saying maybe we should.
Okay, yeah.
It'll be phase 2 of our pizza consumption.
Phase 1 was not eating pizza.
Phase 2 is, a cookies pizza party.
It is already phase 2 in Jersey, I believe, and upstate New York. I was driving through New Jersey the other day, and you can go buy a mattress.
Oh. Wait, what were you doing in Jersey? What were you doing in Dirty Jersey?
Going for a little hike.
Oh, I've been waiting to talk about this on the pod. Can you tell us about your new hiking status?
Well, my status as a hiker is rapidly ascending, much like me on the trails of which I hike.
Much like the New York Knicks. Go ahead.
Heading right to the summit. No, I like hiking. It's nice. It was something I never was into particularly, never thought about. Did not have a strong anti-hiking stance. But in the quest to avoid human beings, it's a handy way to see a little nature, get a little exercise, sweat a bit without humans.
I'm not much of a hiker, so you have to educate me. Is it a fast walk? Is it kind of a jog? Or is it walking just like straight up New York City pace?
The hikes I've done, which are not a ton of them, there's a good resource called All Trails, which lists by area and the potential hikes you could take and shows maps that you can then download to your phone,
giving the listeners
overlaid
secrets
on Google.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say it's a New York brisk walk, and then at times you go up like rock embankments, which they call a scramble, I think, or something like that. Yeah, it's kind of cool. You can do a few miles over a couple hours. Generally, you can do one that's like a moderate level, which is not intense, but like if it's hot out and it's steep, I mean, it's actually a workout. Like it's tiring. I advocate it. Hiking, kind of cool.
I was thinking about it because Hoka sneakers put out a new shoe with like a long, I can't really describe it. It has like a long tail on the sole, which is all the rage in running right now with the Nike Vaporflies and that kind of new technology. and they have a warning on the listing or the page for these shoes that these are not recommended for hiking because it could cause injury or even death because you could it could get a snag on something and fall down a cliff. Do you go hiking with a partner? What happens if you fall?
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly places where if you fall, you would be badly hurt. I mean, there's cliffs and shit.
Yeah, man, I've seen movies. I know this happens sometimes in Grand Canyon.
Like, I'm not doing anything. Like, I'm not rappelling. I'm not, using wires and things. But yeah, you're gaining, 1,000 feet of elevation or something like that. And there are certainly places where if you fell and like broke your ankle, you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's not really reception. I guess you'd have to hop back on one leg. Like I honestly don't really know. Like if you were seriously hurt, you'd have to be like helivac'd out of there.
Cut off your ankle.
But you can
Cut your
get
foot from the ankle. Yep.
Yeah, and then go home on your stump.
Yeah.
But you can get pretty far removed from civilization and feel like you're in the middle of nowhere within like an hour and change from New York City.
Oh, dude, I mean, you grew up in Rochester. I grew up kind of south from there, but New York, like, you drive 45 minutes and you'll see cows in forests.
Yeah. It's again, it is very close, and there are places where you can go and 360 degrees, you do not see a man-made construction anywhere. It's just rolling mountains and hills. There's a bear.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I just missed it, but people who walked by after me said that they had seen a bear right where I was, and I was like, ooh.
Do you have that tactical bear spray?
Bear mace or whatever it's called?
I don't know. It must be cool. You gotta it's like a Wild West thing. Like, it has to be ergonomic and grippable, and you have to access it quickly, right?
I don't really know what the protocol is for bears. Some say you're supposed to yell and make noise and like wave your arms, and other people are like, just kind of stand there looking big and calm.
Yeah.
Those are very different tactics.
Yeah.
Like scream at the bear or don't scream at the bear. That's binary.
Grizzly Man really shook me because it kind of portrayed bears as having as distinct personalities as humans. And, allegedly, no spoilers, that movie's been out for a second. The protagonist is done in by a notoriously grouchy bear with a vendetta. And I'm like, bears can have vendettas? I'm like, yeah, why not? I guess like cats and dogs have vendettas against certain people, right?
I think that's true. So do crows can recognize humans.
Yo, crows are very intelligent, man.
My dad was chased often by the same crow every time he'd come out of church as a kid.
No.
I would recognize him.
How did he know it was the same crow?
I mean, that's true. Maybe there were multiple crows targeting him, but they knew it was him was the real point.
Was it a crow with a tiny green claw from Boston?
I don't know what the crow was about, but it did not like my dad. It's a long lineage of anti-Dietrich crow behavior going on out there. I have not had any other run-ins with any wild animals, though. I've seen a salamander, I've seen a deer.
No chipmunks like running
A lot
across?
of chipmunks. They're a dime a dozen, man.
I love those things, man. They're incredible.
They're adorable.
Yeah, in Colorado, I think it's near Colorado Springs. There's a ghost town, like an old town they preserved, and you can feed the chipmunks, and the chipmunks have been so accustomed to humans that you sit there with like whatever chipmunk feed, and dozens will just hop on your shoulders and your lap, and they're just so chill. They're amazing, man.
I think that's happened a little bit to the bears of like Jersey, New York, is that they're not scared of people in particular anymore.
Yeah.
Because they're not being hunted. Humans have food, but they're also not aggressive either.
Yeah.
So it's unlikely that they're going to attack you. They just are kind of not fearful of you either. Like their natural instinct is to run away from humans.
Yeah,
But
like
at this
sharks.
point, they see humans, so they're like, whatever.
There was an underreported story in New York City during the coronavirus, and it's still going on, I assume, phase one wise.
Coronavirus? Is that still happening?
Rats they didn't have enough food because no restaurants were open and there was no garbage on the streets and in dumpsters, that rats were getting increasingly desperate for food and attacking people. They were like around during the day. They were starving basically and turning into zombies and trying to survive and attacking like people thinking that they were close to food or might provide them with a morsel of food. Underreported.
I heard about this, and I think there was some speculation that would lead to like invading armies of rats that would be, you know,
With the rats
hankering
unionized.
hankering for garbage.
The Chaz of rats. Their Tompkins Square is now Rat Chaz Town.
That would be an actual Rat King.
Oh, yeah. Willard, right? That was that movie.
Well, Rat Kings are fictional. Mm-hmm. Like the idea of the Rat King.
Yes.
But it is a gruesome idea. Which
How-
is a whole bunch of rats connected, like entangled into one, like writhing clump of rats.
Rats.
That's a Rat King.
I love rats quite a bit, so I don't think. I assume the best of rats. So I don't think they're survivors, man. They eat garbage. They have to survive. But like, they don't like behave in a communal way. Like they don't all eat the same thing. If one of them finds something, it drags it away from other rats, right?
I don't know that they are creatures who share. I also want to know, is it unfair for rats to be associated with snitching? They don't seem like they tell a lot.
Rats are awesome, man. They solve puzzles. They're smart. Like, we do experiments with them because we behave kind of like them in a way. My buddy Brendan in college had a pet rat named Rat, and it was a lovely creature, man. It was very cool, and the tail does not bother me at all.
You remember when we were growing up, there was that, I don't know if it was real or it was an urban legend about like rats would endure electric shocks in order to get cocaine.
Oh, I heard about this.
Remember that? It was like
Yeah,
the cocaine rat experiment. And it was like, don't do cocaine because rats will like suffer shocks in order to get like more blow.
Same with my homie at the bar, so I knew about that a long time ago. Same with the guy at the stroke show. Come on, man.
Why does he keep tasing himself? Humans are just like rats.
Why is that bear macing himself in the face just to get that bump of coke?
It's bear mace. He loves the shit.
It's like Jackass, but no one's watching or filming.
I don't know. Cocaine just hits different after I've shocked myself and maced myself in the face. Well, shout out to Rat King. Wiki has a new song.
I was
I
wondering
liked
where
it. Or a new album. Anyway, I saw some new music by him. I listened to one of the tracks. It was good.
I was wondering about that because I love Sport, his producer, and he had kind of disappeared from the scene. I wondered what was going on with the rap crew Rat King.
Yeah, I play ball with Sport. He can play. He's very good.
He's wiry, right? Is he plays like a wet noodle? All respect to wet noodles.
No.
No.
He's very athletic, physical, can shoot. He's a very good player.
Yeah. Is he a lefty?
I can't remember.
That's all good. So how's the new Wiki song?
It was good. I like those kids though. You know, I mean, like whatever they do, I support. So I liked it. I thought it was good. It was him rapping on a subway station that was nicely cleared, certainly due to COVID. So they were able to get a long panning shot of him, you know, rapping from a great distance on an empty platform. It was cool.
Yeah, wonderful dudes, part of our kind of satellite scene or just in our scene. So really rooting for them, but I'm not really listening to that much of that type of rapping these days.
Oh, really? What are you listening to?
Mostly sing-songy, you know, like auto-tune stuff. Come on, like every 16-year-old. I was thinking about this the other day. I was walking around all over East Village, Brooklyn, Midtown, and a lot of people are hanging out these days because they can't be inside necessarily, and there's a lot of boomboxing going on. Boomboxage, I don't know. I've heard Juicy every day for almost like a couple months or since it's been nice. And it got me to thinking. I never hear any tracks from Life After Death, only Ready to Die, and usually only like Juicy. Um, are you allowed to be a goat if you only have one universally beloved record? Because
I would take exception to that. I was not a big fan of it was Ready to Die and then Life After Death.
Yeah, I know, they're
I was
confusing.
yeah, I was not a huge fan of Life After Death when it first came out.
No one really was.
But
It's an excellent record, man.
it's got I mean, it was a double album and felt a bit bloated. It was also, I think, highly influential as the first sort of New York classic record that was very much catering to different regions.
Well, he went out of his comfort zone, right? He kind of stepped into R&B. He stepped into kind of a different kind of storytelling where he was no longer like a drug dealer and he was no longer doing bad things, and he started like reflecting more upon his life. It was kind of like a big step in a different direction, right?
I felt as if Life After Death was very much influenced by Snoop and Dre and their albums. Not totally sonically, but just overall.
Yeah.
It struck me as that was kind of what they were looking to emulate. But with that second album, I think that came out in '97, it was really all over the place. You had a Bone Thug song. You
Faith
had,
Evans.
as you said, songs that were just R&B records,
Yeah.
songs that were DJ Premier, and it was kind of a template for East Coast albums that I don't generally love, like the Something for Everyone kind of album, which are not my favorite. I like the ones where I don't mind artists trying different things, but I always kind of like I'm a classicist. I want that album that's a coherent vibe. Like
Which Ready to Die was.
was far more of.
Yeah, it was concise. That record's perfect, for sure.
But I do disagree with you about the amount of hits on that on Life After Death.
Oh, there was a menu,
Hypnotize was huge.
Yeah.
You know, kick in the door. Like I mean, there are a lot. I think your guy, or maybe he used 10 Crack Commandments. Jamal Bowman, Rap Dad candidate for the House of Representatives, used I think 10 Crack Commandments in one of his recent videos.
I mean, I agree. I mean, Biggie has tracks that aren't on either of those albums, but I think all I hear is Juicy. And all right.
Okay, but what other songs are you even hearing from his first album besides Juicy? Juicy is a chronically overplayed record.
I know. And it brings so much instant joy to people. Like, I'll just be walking side by side with somebody and we'll turn the corner and that song will be playing and they will like erupt into joy and start rapping along. Like, that is an incredible thing, I think. And
I mean, spread love, it's the Brooklyn way became a marketing slogan for the entire borough. Like, its basketball team, every coffee shop, everything is like, spread love.
Yeah. And so, but it got me to thinking, right? Like, that record came out 30 odd years ago. And it's, regarded as, Biggie's regarded as the GOAT rapper. And when I think of the greatest rapper of all time, I automatically go to Young Thug, Gucci Mane, Outkast. Like, it doesn't start in New York, but like, no one talks about those rappers as GOATs because I think the GOAT thing is since everyone's arguing about generations on Twitter with the millennials versus the Zoomers, which is amazing. I think like Gen X and this high fidelity mentality wants to rank things all the time. And I have not really heard of anyone calling anything the GOAT, let it be like Michael Jordan or a rapper. Like, if the thing didn't exist after the year 2000. Am I wrong?
If we're gonna keep talking about rap, Jay-Z was the one who kind of had the LeBron role, which
Incredible.
he was the most recent guy that was able to sort of claim that kind of position. whether or not you think he's the best or whether or not it's based on taste, but the parallels between the Biggie and Tupac being Jordan, or the Rakims and the guys who were of the previous generation. Jay-Z was someone who did also come out in 90.
Yeah, oh my God. Reasonable Doubt was
90s.
ages ago.
96, I think.
I mean, Kanye to me is the best rapper of all time. If leaving his politics aside and his bipolar stuff he does, but like his music is to me is like he's the greatest artist of all time. I know we can debate these things forever, but like it's always Biggie, and we never give like. And I started crossing over into other areas like movies. How come we never consider new movies like GOAT potential candidates? And it's always like the
we do it with basketball too.
This is where I'm going.
Yeah,
for
because like Karl Anthony Towns is the best offensive big man in history.
Yeah.
He is.
He's
Sorry,
incredible.
he is.
Yeah.
I'm not even a huge fan.
Yeah.
He's the best offensive, close to 7-footer ever. It's ridiculous how good he is. It's ridiculous.
Kyrie Irving is the best guard I've ever seen play, and statistically, he's the best guard that ever touched a basketball.
Unless Curry is, but.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
two GOATs, man.
I'm more saying that this is how basketball works. Art is obviously not as an artist, as like people build off of what has been done in the past, but basketball they really do. And dude, it is crazy to look at clips from the early 90s or 80s in basketball before and one. Guys couldn't dribble.
Yeah.
I was looking at video of Kenny Anderson when he was in college at Georgia Tech. I remember him, even though I was a little Ute. I remember him being the most exciting player I'd ever seen. And you go back and you watch it, you're like, had kind of a rudimentary crossover, but not really, and a spin move.
Yeah.
Guys couldn't dribble.
Yo, in the era of tearing down statues, if we want to preserve the Magic Johnson statue, like I think we should, do not look at the footage of him bringing the ball up, because you could probably. He's like Cookie's potential, right? Like you can snatch that ball right from him. He doesn't have a handle, but he was one of the greatest basketball players ever. But do not look at that footage if you want to keep the memory alive.
What's interesting is when you look at Kenny Anderson's highlights when he was on the Nets, they start looking a lot more modern. Like so over a few years. And I'm not saying this was and one, this was before that. But over a couple of years, you see it was right in that period where guys just started getting a lot better at dribbling the basketball.
And, like, they're encouraged to, right? Like, I feel like when the transfer from Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr happened in the Warriors, Steph Curry was unleashed in this and one kind of way. And unless you have that impetus, we will have never known if Kenny Anderson was like kind of that street baller we know he is. Because we see these dudes like windmill dunking in warm-ups, and in the games they're just shooting baby jumpers. Like the ability of these guys goes past what we see in an organized game, right?
Oh, for sure. But that and one era specifically is really interesting because right after that you had, Iverson was crossing people over left and right, but he wasn't doing a ton of crazy stuff. He would do some, but then you had like Steve Francis, who was just doing and one moves like on the court.
Yeah.
Like Steve Francis more than anybody. Other than like Rafer Alston or something. But Steve Francis
who was literally and one.
Yeah. Steve Francis was doing berserk playground stuff on the court. Wasn't that him who... Oh, no, that was Josh Richardson. Jason Richardson, who bounced the ball off of Boozer's face in the rookie game.
White Chocolate is the guy, the disrespect guy. And I think he brought that culture into the league. And, I don't know. And since we don't have basketball now, and since there's no games to talk about, it's only natural to think of these things as art forms and cultural kind of shifts and bookmarks, right? And I don't know, thinking about music and the idea of the goats, and a lot of rappers, for some reason, it's like the anniversary of a lot of rappers' deaths recently. Triple X Tentacion, your boy Prodigy passed away, I believe.
Prodigy died 3 years ago today.
Yeah, and like, yo, he was a young man rapping a long time ago, and for a while, I never put Prodigy in the goat category, but like, he was pretty impeccable, right?
He was always a rapper I liked a lot. Around the time of HNIC.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
Well, that's late though.
But I'm saying I think he was kind of a top, like we're doing Gen X like rankings. He was like a top 3, top 5 rapper at that point. Like he was great.
Was he?
But he was great in that
Yeah,
era.
fantastic. But
Like early on, he was good. But I feel like Hell on Earth and HNIC, that era, he was fantastic.
But they were most famous as a vibe, right? Like no one talked about him as a rapper. They talked about Mobb Deep as a vibe.
He just became
Sure.
so good at rapping.
Right.
He went from being a solid rapper, kind of almost interchangeable with Havoc on that first album. I mean, he was better
Than
but,
Havoc.
but
Yeah.
but somewhat interchangeable to just being outlandishly good at rapping. And I honestly think he's the best rapper ever. I think that now, and it's not just sentiment over the anniversary of his death. I was thinking this like last month or a month and a half ago, driving around. I'm like, he's the best rapper.
It is a tranquil and Gen X thought, but no, I mean these guys rapping now are they're just an evolution that's better. They're smartphones, and Prodigy
I don't know.
is
I
a
don't
flip
know.
phone.
They are better at certain things. He did not have a particularly melodic delivery. But what I love about him is the fact that he's so topically consistent. It's just street shit over and over and over and over. And it never gets old because of his use of words.
He never had a life after death moment where he was like, I want to collaborate and like do something bigger than my world. He stayed within his world.
I mean, they had some low moments as a group when they got down with G Unit. They did a couple like pop singles that did not work that well. But Prodigy as a rapper, remarkably good at staying on message, but using interesting word choices. And from someone who writes for a living, like it's so hard to do.
For sure.
He didn't repeat words. He was brilliant. Like you listen to the way he phrases things, his turns of phrase, just remarkable shit. Like so vivid and so unusual, and yet everyone, especially that era, like thug rap from Queens, everyone was doing the same stuff, except that he was totally different and better because he sounded so much better and chose better words.
I mean, we're getting to that age where these guys are like the Led Zeppelin versus the Who or whoever these the boomers used to debate. I watched the King of Staten Island. I paid $20 for that movie because I'm a big Pete Davidson fan, and it was about Staten Island. And your boy Action Bronson has no spoilers, but he appears in the movie and has scenes, and I'm like, after the beef that he had with Ghostface Killer, to have a movie about Staten Island, who was consulting this? Get Ghostface, right? Or Raekwon or any Wu-Tang member. And then the next thought I had was, is Ghostface the best New York rapper in the last 20 years?
He's the other guy that I would put up in that category. They're like my favorites. It's Ghost and Prodigy.
So my beef with Prodigy, which is a small beef, he wasn't funny enough.
Ghost
Ghost
not
was
funny
funny.
at all.
Yeah. A Prodigy was unintentionally funny, but Ghost was intentionally funny. And this is my larger point about this idea of the greatest of all time. Because when I think of movies, comedies never get respect for Best Picture awards at the Oscars or the Golden Globes. But if you ask me, I think Bridesmaids and Superbad are two of the best movies of all time, right? With Citizen Kane and whoever you have in there, Raging Bull. I think those movies deserve to be there, and I think it's a deeply Gen X thing to take things so seriously. And I value humor more than a vibe. So maybe I value a humorous vibe more than a serious vibe, and especially now that things are very fucking serious out there on the streets. Like, we are not joking around. This is no joking on the streets. And I think of artists like Barbara Kruger and Jenny Holzer who are very relevant now. And I may be showing my maturity and not my age because I'm kind of with Zoomers here. I'm just like, the message is so powerful with a little bit of levity, you know?
I like rappers with a sense of humor. Kind of migrated away from the dudes who are just like rhyming words with rhymes, like the Dooms and the Cam'rons. Like I love them. They're among my all-time favorites. But just
Cameron's incredible.
Love them. They are gifted, and as a word nerd, their shit is fantastic. But I've just kind of moved away from the whole syllable, like whole multi-syllable, whole sentence and stuff. And like I really like it and appreciate it. But yeah, I'm not really into it that much right now. Just as a personal like listening experience.
It feels like we have aged out of a type of delivery or art form as a whole in everything, like writing, music, books. Like I don't know what someone smarter than me would call this, but it is farther than postmodern.
Well, it's basketball, right? Because that was and one shit. Like Cameron is and one shit. It's like watch what I can do with words.
Purple Haze was an and one mixtape for seeing an and one mixtape for the first time.
MF Doom.
He's kind of incredible. I like KMD, but he was on the scene already.
They're great. Even like Paul Barman. Not that I liked his music, but that idea of like,
Sure.
how far can we push rhyming? We're going to
Influential,
use
yeah.
compound rhymes and multiple syllables. What if we rhyme every single word? It became like it was and one. And after you've seen people do it, you've heard all these incredible rhyme schemes. Eminem, incredibly good at putting words together, and now you listen to it, you're like, dude, this is insane. I don't want to hear this again in my life.
Yeah.
Like you're just rhyming, you're babbling, rhyming words together.
Shout out to Bone Thugs who are in a league of their own. But I think one of the most freeing moments of my...
It's a very hot teapot.
no one can mess with Bone Thugs. Bone Thugs is like a standalone, a goat in their own. But one of the most freeing moments of my life was I've always had a guitar. I've always played a guitar. And I think sometime in my late teens, I was tired of learning blues scales. And I was like, fuck it. I don't care about being good at guitar anymore. I just want this thing to make some noise. And it was convenient because that was the time like punk was becoming a thing. But shedding the idea of classic rockism was a freeing idea to me. And I think that's a lot of what millennial and Zoomer rappers did. They shed the idea of lyricism and started to make real art, right?
I agree with you. And I like modern stuff. Even though you've accused me of saying it all sounds the same, which was not exactly my point.
All right, what was your point?
No, my point was that it was kind of what you were saying, that production takes a back seat in many cases with specific artists. That was like I was getting around to that point, that it's really about the artists themselves and like making like a song or having melody and things like that.
Yeah, presenting a thought, right? Like
or a feeling, as you were saying, a vibe.
Absolutely. Like, I love a solo. I love Jay Mascis. I love hearing Dinosaur Jr. rip two epic solos in one song. But also, I'm into, like, I don't know, like a 2-minute Bad Brain song. Or like a 2-minute special ska song. Like, there's a vibe there, and there's a technical proficiency that's a subpar that I think I really enjoy. And how it relates to ball is like post and one, I think, is fascinating because you have players sort of like Ben Simmons who have evolved even further. It's like, oh, I'm not worried about that. That just gets in the way of me dunking. I'm like, holy shit, you're a Terminator.
And what you're saying about playing with form, if you go back and listen to like, I don't know, LL Cool J's early albums or something, every song is basically 3 verses, a hook. Every verse is 16 bars. Like the structure is the same in every single song over and over and over. They're all around 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
And now you see stuff and it's like Lil Pump. It's like, yeah, it's a minute and 12 seconds or something.
That's awesome.
It's so much better. And you listen to old albums now and you're like, why won't this song end?
Oh my God.
Why is the song 4.5 minutes long?
That was my whole beef with T.I. He could have been one of the greats. But for some reason, he was so infatuated with choruses, even like Rubber Band Man, before he became like a pop star. Like, yo, this chorus is too long, and you've done it 3 times. The 4th is not. Oh, here comes the 4th. 4th time, I'm a Rubber Band Man, man. Like, holy shit. Like just like have the beat play out and ad lib like the Jeezy way, right?
It's true. T.I. is a crazy person.
I enjoy him as a celebrity, as an actor, but his music, he was so good. Nothing to, but he could have been one of the greats. When King came out, I really enjoyed King, but his songs are long, man. Those are like 4.5 minute songs.
We're still beating around the bush here, but out of that era, I feel like rap is underappreciated in the same way that the NBA is. Not drawing like clumsy parallels, but like to your point, we don't seem to be interested in goats like T.I. or Jeezy or Ross or Lil Wayne.
Wow, Ross has had a great career.
But we just discount that whole sort of generation.
We
We still stick with like, all right, there's Biggie, there's Jay-Z. After that, no one.
Nas. Yeah.
Nas, exactly. Those 3, Biggie, Jay-Z, and Nas.
Yeah. I think GOAT is a specific delineation for an idea. It's not an acronym for greatest of all time. It's just like, dude that in my lifetime I think was the best, you know?
Well, the only one we really get out of that era is Kobe, and that's very specific to like Kobe fans. Mm-hmm. He's kind of the only one.
Yeah. He is not the GOAT.
No.
He is not. He's top 20. He's top 20.
You know, has this period of time without basketball made you think about the players a little differently?
In many ways, but what are you getting at?
You know, like thinking of like Tobias Harris, right?
Ethical God.
How we've called him net zero.
On the court.
On the court. I know. And I really like that guy now. I didn't have any anti-Tobias feelings personally, but we would criticize him on the court for, not taking enough threes or not being a great passer while dribbling, things like that. But he's been so awesome over the last month or so, over the last month.
Yeah, I'm a fan, man.
Yeah, huge fan.
Yeah.
I'm almost like falling into the category of, keep him on the team. Good guy. Good dude in the locker room. Love this guy. Hero.
Yeah.
Like, that's the opposite of how I have viewed basketball for such a long time. Are we pushing towards, like, another way of caring about basketball? Like, about an almost old school loyalty to players? I don't know. I'm not saying anything concrete here. But have you sort of started feeling differently about these guys?
1,000%, and I think it's new. It's not old. Everyone.
Yeah, I just mean in that way of like that's our guy. Like this like fandom way.
Yeah.
But this is new.
Yeah, and a lot of people. It's like people are just saying the same things now and not quite thinking about it. But when this movement happened, these protests, and what a community in America was screaming in the sky to let us know how they felt. Like, we say we're listening, but like I think we all listen to different degrees. And, I started thinking about the way we criticize basketball players, and I hope on Cookies we've always been like, but these are generous people, and there has to be villains here, and this is theater, and we don't actually hate anybody. It's just like there has to be a villain in order for us to talk about a story. But then there's this tradition of AM radio and Skip Bayless going after LeBron James that I've always, and I think we've always felt was kind of dark, and it's changed the way even more I view ballers, and because of the complexities you see in someone like Tobias Harris, and it will affect the way I see him on the court now. And we get so caught up in a capology and how our favorite teams can make these pieces work, and I forget sometimes, to be honest, that I'm talking about like people who like are tremendous human beings, right? And like we apply money to them, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like, it's a too simple way, it's too reductive, and I think hopefully moving forward we can change that.
Well, they don't even have to be tremendous human beings. Just human beings.
Yes.
And I think we've always tried to take an approach that valued that and has valued that and will continue to, that the Cookies creed. But I'm serious though. I'm being genuine. I think
I'm with you.
we have always sided with players and tried to view them as people.
Stories. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
And I think I've said this before, but I do have some regrets about like tweeting mean shit about Jahlil Okafor.
I
Like
know.
making a lot of jokes about his defense and stuff. Like it wasn't insanely cruel, but I kind of regret that.
Yeah. Yep. And
Because these guys are have a lot of pressure on them, and there are so many people who are saying shitty things, and so many people who are being abusive.
yeah.
Like,
And
why add to that?
there's no degree of sensitivity too high here, and I know some people, not our dear listeners, especially our Patreon subscribers, amazing people.
Those guys who are getting instant access right now, immediately.
But I think that I don't think there's a level of sensitivity too high for this. And of course, we have to talk about successes and failures because it's the nature of what we're watching. But as we're seeing this discussion with the burger bubble entering Orlando and how to take care of these young men, these young black men, and what the CBA tells them they have to do, and what collectively they can do as people within the rules of this corporation, is like kind of taking the veil away from a lot of this, because there are so many more ways to be sensitive to the condition in which these athletes work under that have not been treated well.
The NBA, I think, did not necessarily prepare for this moment in a way that is appealing to me right now.
Yeah, it's gross, right?
I don't want to hate the NBA.
No,
I don't want to. I want to root for the NBA.
don't do it.
I don't want to hate the NBA.
Don't hate them.
But I do not like what they're doing right now. I don't like it. And again, I've never liked the owners. And that is the NBA, is what we're speaking of. Like, I'm not talking about the players when I say the NBA. I'm talking about the league office, which is the
governors.
the proxy for the governors, exactly.
Yeah.
And
Which is as dark as owner. Come on, let's be honest.
same shit. But, I don't want to hate them. But I don't view this, quote, plan as being legit at all. And we talked a lot last week about the burger bubble and, like, whether the NBA could pull this off. So the question I want to pose to you now is, does the NBA even want to pull this off? Or is this just due diligence for saddling the players with the season's financial losses?
I'm trying to get educated with this, and there's so many
Damn time.
there's so many complexities with the CBA and legal stuff that I can't really wrap my non-lawyer brain around. But it seems like the NBA, I think I've always said they're bluffing, but there is a real play in dissolving the collective bargaining agreement and giving leverage to back to the owners to reconstruct that agreement into their favor. Because if they decide it's okay to resume the league and players en masse decide not to show up, I think they're legally allowed to tear that document up. And that is very much on the table.
They are. And as I've said before, I don't think the players should view that as a threat worth caring about. Just personally. Like,
Sure.
it's not my money, but I'm saying that's an owner problem, not a player problem,
Right.
as far as I can see it. The owners would have the players over a barrel except for BLM.
Sure.
That's what I mean. They were not really ready for that. They put their little plan together. They were not ready for BLM to be like, wait a minute, we can't turn the public against these guys right now. That's what they were trying to do.
I mean, they're going to try. I mean,
And they will fail.
maybe. Yeah, I hope so. An argument I've heard from a lot of player sympathetic voices is that the Kyries and the Dwights are kind of out of touch with the rest of the league, because there's actually only a handful of superstars and a handful of max contracts, like under 50 maybe. And a lot of players want to play, and they need to play because they have mortgages, they have bills, they want to get paychecks, and they're willing to be in a safe environment and take that in their mind a calculated risk. And
I don't know if that's true.
there's players on Twitter who are just like, let me at them, like Austin Rivers, for example. But I think that
I'm not disputing that there are some. I just don't know how these percentages break down.
sure,
I have no clue.
sure, and I think preventing someone from making money is deeply un-American, and that's the whole beef I have with not letting high school kids jump straight to the NBA, and this kind of bleeds into it.
I just am not convinced the NBA actually wants this to occur. They are a risk-averse organization. Like, there is brewing COVID epidemics in South Florida right now. It is
Yep.
spiking. The idea that in a month you're going to send all these guys down there after we've seen college football players getting COVID and I believe some baseball players,
Yeah.
the plan is absurd. There is no way the NBA is actually prepared to do it or even wants it to happen. I swear, man. Like, there's
No, I
no
believe you.
way an organization that is that risk averse is going to have this kind of potential calamity on its hands.
I tried to opt out of the mask debate, but like the Godfather keeps pulling me back in, so I'm back into the mask debate, man.
Oh, God. Masks.
Yo, it is the only thing that matters. Shout out to Zoomers tonight. We're recording this on Saturday. They pulled a party prank on Trump's rally in Tulsa, which is, they pulled a 50 Cent, or as we call it, a Verge. They RSVP'd in the thousands, and Trump thought he had 1 million or so RSVPs, and like a sizable number of people showed up, but not what he thought. It optically looked not great for him.
Oh,
Hilarious, Frank, hilarious.
Optically a disaster.
Optically a disaster. A lot of people showed up, but like this is like the donkey in Bachelor Party, man. Amazing prank. Like, shout out to Zoomers and K-pop fans who pulled this off, allegedly.
Sprinkle a little of that itching powder in the jockstrap.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is closer to, like, I don't think Trump has as many supporters as everyone thinks they do, because Twitter amplifies the wrong thing. But hey, man, very funny. I'm glad that we're going to take this too seriously. We should just laugh about this and move on. Mass, on the other hand, we have to take deadly seriously now.
Well, the one thing I was going to say about the Trump rally, which I did not watch,
No.
and apparently he played the hits.
He drank water with one hand, man. Did you hear?
I heard about that. MS-13. He explained the ramp. He's just out there riffing, doing his comedy show with over at the Tulsa Center.
Antifa, what's up with that?
I mean, it was all that shit as far as I could tell. But I will say the good thing about the prank is that it needles at him because he's so sensitive to stuff about crowds. So like, that's why it's the perfect prank. It's not just that they made him look foolish. It's something that like will really get him heated.
It's so easy too. It's just like email. It's like it's harder to deliver 10 pizzas to like your enemy's house. It's just like, yo guys, everyone RSVP. It's like, this will be funny. Oh, you did it too? Oh, we got like 2,000 RSVPs done.
Do not test K-pop.
Yeah. Like I care so little about Trump's feelings. I don't even care about what gets under his skin. It's just like I've opted out of that for years. But the mask things I'm back into.
Okay, so what's tell me. I know you're back on masks, but
back on masks.
But we're supposed to wear masks inside places now anyway. So is that what you're referring to?
I mean, it's an ongoing debate now. There was that incident in Bed-Stuy that was famous where some guy, maybe not the most bro-ish dude, not of the Tobias Harris cut of character, defied a rule of wearing no mask, no service kind of thing and yelled out some really stupid stuff and it went viral. And we're arguing about masks still. And I'm back in because...
But we're not arguing about masks, though, really, in terms of, every place in New York you have to wear a mask when you go into.
But the debate is people who don't want to. I mean, New York is doing a better job than the rest of the country, to be honest. But
that's why I'm just disputing the we here, because New York, that is not a thing. There's not like a anti-mask movement in New York at all.
When I say we, I always mean Twitter, always.
But like, it's not even happening in Twitter as far as.
Oh, that's all we're doing
about New York. I don't see anybody bitching
New York.
About masks at all.
Not New York. Leave New York behind because New York, I think, is doing a great job. But
to your point, that's why COVID is dropping, despite the fact that people are seeing more of each other and people are socializing more because they're outside and they're wearing masks.
Well, COVID is spiking in Florida, in Arizona, in California, and the whole deal leading up to this rally was they're not going to wear masks. So people were comparing them to like Brian Jonestown Massacre stuff in like Jim Jones, which I always think is going to be about Dipset, and it never is. Jim Jones is trending. I'm like, does he have a new track out? Yeah. But
is one of, sorry to cut you off
not,
there, but is part of the distaste for masks because of like the looming specter of Sharia law?
I mean, it could be.
Gotta be, right?
Yeah.
They're making us cover our faces like we're in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Gotta be. Yeah.
It's like we're not actually talking. I made this joke on Twitter. I was like, it's as if
recycling material. Sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I wanted. I didn't see it. Sorry.
It's as if somebody wanted to tell me I'm stupid, but made fun of my pants instead. Just tell me I'm stupid. If you want to argue politics with me, argue politics. Do not argue about masks in a time of a pandemic where it turns out the more we know, it's like you can't really get it from touching things. You should just wash your hands at a normal rate at this point. You cannot get it from getting packages delivered, Amazon. You can only get it through the air. So the rest of the world thinks we've given up on fighting COVID, which we kind of have, to be honest, as a country. Because we're fighting about masks, but what we're really fighting about is like these fundamental core arguments we've been having for decades, right?
Do you see any time in the near future when we won't have to wear masks going in stores?
Yeah, it depends on what kind of vaccines we get, right? If someone comes out with a vaccine that's like, this looks good, guys, and in a month it's like, yo, the vaccine is crazy. It's awesome. We are good to go, everybody. Yeah, that could happen.
Maybe. I just think it'll be like, mutation. Oh, you got to get your vaccine once a year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's going to be like you get it once.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a time where we won't have to wear masks in the next 5 years, maybe. I'm not saying 1 year, but 5 years flies by, man. Like, Monte Ellis, he's been out of the league for a bit, man. But I think the masks is the thing that is going to save lives, and we're arguing about other stuff. I wish we could just get people to wear some masks, and then we can argue about the other stuff later, you know?
I agree. I think you should be wearing masks when you're indoors. I believe outdoors, if you're away from people, maybe wear a mask if you're like in someone's face.
Whatever, just wear the mask when you can, you know?
No, but I agree. I mean, like I wear a mask when I'm walking around outside, if I'm around other people. Like I don't do that shit where I wear my mask walking down an empty street. Like that's just weird to me.
I forget that I have it on, so it just like doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't think to take it off. You know, I wear one of those blue ones. They're pretty comfy. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look, people have to deal with this and process it the best way they know how. But when I'm on a hiking trip and I see someone like a mile off wearing a mask on a trail, I'm like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Like, you're not getting COVID
Yeah, but also like that thought is weird
200
because
meters
they just,
away from people.
That thought is weird because we're judging some. They just forgot they have a mask on.
I
They
mean,
were
that
told to
could
wear a
be
mask.
that could be the case.
It's like, how dare you? Yeah, it's like we're doing the wrong thing with masks. Like we're just like, well, what's your stance at this moment?
I got no problem with people being on an island by themselves wearing a mask. If they forgot it was on or that's how they're comfortable, that's cool. It's better for everybody. Again, no criticism on my part. I'm saying it still strikes me as odd.
Sounds like criticism. No, I get you. It's
okay.
I'm teasing.
More people wearing masks, the better. I agree.
Yeah. I took a sip of water the other day forgetting I had a mask on. It was so dumb. But also, I should preface this, and this is an emotional aspect of it. I'm dead inside. Like, I've been married forever. Like, I am not necessarily a social person anymore. I like to just, like, buy my broccoli and go straight home. But, like, if I was, like, dating or younger, like, this is more difficult, right? Being anonymous is not easy. It's, like, antithetical to being a human in society.
I would say the people at the protests have done a fantastic job wearing masks. Mm-hmm. And because people have worn masks and because it's outdoors, there does not seem to be any spike whatsoever associated with the protests.
Fingers crossed. Yeah. So far, so good.
So far, so good. I know in Seattle, the people who were tested who were at the protests actually had a lower rate than like people who were tested who weren't at the protest.
Yo, there was a murder in Seattle in the no police zone the other night.
Yeah, it was a white supremacist killed somebody, right?
I don't know. I didn't even look because the takes are just going to be horrendous.
I think it was a one of your Boogaloo boys.
Oh, not a juggalo?
No, not a juggalo.
Bonobro?
Boys. Do you know about the Boogaloo Boys?
Yeah, I'm teasing.
You're on a real teasing mission here.
Yo, it's late, man. We're recording this. I'm done setting off all those fireworks. We went through like a bunch of Roman candles right before we jumped on the pod.
We have talked about fireworks before, but I still don't know
Where the fuck are they coming from?
why there are so many this year. I know people are bored. I know they have maybe some expendable income, maybe. I cannot figure out why this year is like fireworks year.
I mean, they're not hard to get, but they're not easy to get. You need to have someone who's
Right
driven
on cue.
a car somewhere. Yeah. I mean, I was hearing them late as 4 a.m. last night. They're emo. Do you have the same feeling I do? It feels like the city is like crying. It's
Really?
wistful. It's wistful, but I feel like I know it's just people getting like shots off, but it feels like the city speaking a little bit. I don't know, man. I make paintings for my living. It's like you have to forgive the whist, defund whist, but it feels like the city speaking to me, and in the middle of the night, it's like crying.
I don't get the sadness element though.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's fair. I mean, this whole thing is melancholy to me because there's so much stuff that's wrong that it can't not be melancholy.
See, I disagree. I feel like, people are bored. There are like people who have died. There are all these terrible things. But right now, especially with the protests and like Juneteenth and progress being made in those regards and COVID going down and the weather being nice, like New York is kind of fantastic right now.
What? Everyone has lost their jobs. What are you talking about?
I'm not
There are
talking
no
about those
jobs.
things. I'm talking about in comparison to, say, a month or two ago. It's just completely different.
Yeah, the protests have changed the vibe, but I think we are wounded as a city. I think we're on one leg right now. We have torn our Achilles, and we'll be back, but we might not be able to jump the same way. But we have definitely torn our Achilles.
I mean, but I'm saying those things had already happened by like March. You know, like,
But it's only June.
but I guess what I'm saying is that pallor that was over the city when this was happening in March and April. It's, to me, it's so different now. You see the optimism and people are outside. To me, it's just completely different vibes.
And we got tired of COVID. We got tired of being grounded, and the weather got better. So yeah, the vibe is totally different. There's people just hanging.
But I'm
There's
saying people are
looking
hanging
good.
out, and like the COVID rate is dropping so much that Cuomo is now threatening to like make people who come from Florida go into 2 weeks of quarantine.
Yeah, and New York is inexplicably doing well in the current moment.
It's masks and people hanging outside.
And peer pressure, and it worked, and I hope it keeps on going. But yeah, man, and it this thing has been changing by the day almost. Even the protests themselves have shifted in tone because it's just the nature of the thing, right? The protest is a living thing, and it keeps on evolving.
I don't know if they're going to stop anytime soon, though.
I hope they don't. I
No,
mean,
me neither.
people have to work eventually, and hopefully Obama, like we're hopefully there's enough money flowing into places that make sure this is longer and more sustainable than not. But eventually the money will run out in a way that we cannot go out there every day.
I don't know. To your point, people already don't have jobs.
Right, but then when stuff reopens, like stage 5, right? Then it's like, well, like my restaurant's back open. I wanna cook that food. I want to make an amazing something.
Oh, for sure, for sure. But, I think there is some context historically on how long protests can go. If you're talking about bus boycotts, we're talking about a long time.
The
the
inflatable
freedom
rat.
rides.
Yeah.
They've been on for a
union.
long time. We're about, I think, 25 days in or something along those lines.
And I hope it stays around. Like, I hope they make Juneteenth a national holiday. I hope we do this in an organized way, like a couple times a year, in a big way, bigly. But I think as we see it every day now, like, this is unsustainable. It's amazing, and every day is like another wonderful moment. But this is hard to keep going, man.
I don't know. I think it's harder to keep going, as you said, when the city is more approaching normalcy. It's not hard to keep going right now. It's the only place that people really have to socialize. And it's not that social in terms of like interacting with people closely, but it's being outside, it's getting some exercise, it's being part of something that feels important. It's a way for people to feel less helpless.
And also, with that organism analogy, it's being fed by new things, new awful things that are happening that are like enrage us and make us more bold, right? There's been even more inexplicable murders by police officers, executed by police officers, that have fueled and galvanized more protest. And
cops really love killing people. And
the
as
Wendy
long
thing
as they
was
like
wild.
doing that, and they continue to do that, and they like pulling out their guns, they like shooting unarmed people, and as long as they do that, people are going to go in the streets.
it keeps so we're getting like a new thing to feed on in a horrible way, but it keeps these protests alive, and the more names we add, like the longer this will go.
Yeah, I agree. But also, these things were happening anyway.
Sure.
You know, cops were doing this, and now we're starting to see at least a bit of accountability.
Yeah.
We're seeing police commissioners getting booted. We're seeing arrests made.
Legislation. Yeah.
Like they're. So I think, as you said, as an organism, the protests, if we're going to pretend they're like a monolith, have
Yeah.
learned that this is effective.
Yeah, and this goes all the way back as far as you almost want it, but I definitely see reverberations of like the Occupy movement, and it taught a certain community how to do this in a structured way and in an organized way that is an evolution and maybe like was a dormant organism for a few, and then you had the Women's March, and then we have this now.
I distinctly remember having a conversation with you on Cookies, the world's most influential basketball podcast, where I said Americans are so docile. And I was talking about the docility of Americans and how reluctant they were to go out in the streets in comparison to, say, the French, who just burn a car because. And that Americans, for some reason, we talked all this big game about rugged individuality, etc., but we weren't eager to get in the streets. Lo and behold, that changed. Like, as you said, maybe it was dormant. It needed something to inspire it. Like, we can trace all these things to previous atrocities committed by police. We can trace it to COVID, the economy, Donald Trump. There are a lot of levers here.
Yeah.
But I was, as usual, very wrong. We had that spirit. It had just been dormant.
It's wild because France is a pretty interesting example. It is so much smaller than America. America's pretty big, and we had the LA riots a couple of times. We've had isolated the Crown Heights riots, and to see this unified is pretty incredible. It's global, but in America, is proud the wrong word? I'm proud to be an American a little bit. Like, we're doing this. It's all happening. It's weird.
Yeah, I can't say it's like a pride in America. I think
I'm ashamed.
but it's like more like I'm proud of Americans.
Yeah. I mean, the Revolutionary War was not that long ago, right? It was a few hundred years ago. And that is still our ethos, right? And it's taken form in different ways, right to the point of people being like, I don't want to wear a mask. You tell me to wear a mask, I'm immediately skeptical. I'm like, oh, this is the revolutionary spirit.
See, this is why I blocked the word mask.
It's time to unblock it because we need masks because people
I don't want to hear
dying.
people arguing about them. We've decided you got to wear masks when you're indoors or around people. Wear masks. We're all on the same page.
It's never a bad idea to wear a mask. If you want to wear it inside your house when you're with like your wife or roommates, do it, or boyfriend or husband. Whatever. Just do it. Doesn't matter.
Who would ever want to do that?
I forget it's on sometimes. Sometimes I'll come in from outside and not take it off for like 20
all
minutes.
Right, you're wilding.
The blue ones are comfortable.
You're walking around your house with a mask on. You've lost it, man.
Well, I just forget is what I'm saying.
Okay.
After like an entire day out there like doing errands, and I come in, I'm putting groceries away, I'll be like, I'm still wearing my stupid mask. It's like all the ice cream is in the freezer, and I'm like, oh, the mask is still on.
Are there any basketball statues that we should try to take down?
Well, let's try to list the ones that we know of. There's Magic Johnson at Staples Center. There's Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Those are awesome.
Michael Jordan.
There's MJ. That's awesome. That should stay. There is a Charles Barkley somewhere.
Yeah,
right?
Philly.
That should stay. That's awesome. Is there a Patrick Ewing in New York?
Not that I know of. That should stay.
I thought there was one of him like with the wingspan on the scorers table, so a small one somewhere.
Oh, that could be the case. I would love to topple like a Bob Cousy statue.
That would be nice. Can we just like erect a Bob Cousy statue to topple it? Hey, if you make it, we will come and topple it.
Oh, it looks like Ryan Hollins and your boy Kendrick Perkins are lined up to fight us off as we try to topple the Bob Cousy statue.
I mean, I would like to topple a
Gordon
Tommy
Hayward's
Heinsohn.
here with his AR in open carry city.
Yeah, who's the most despicable NBA, ex-NBA? In baseball, they're rampant. But, like, is there a despicable NBA player?
I mean, Cousy kind of sucks.
Was Maravich kind of a jerk? I heard he was kind of a jerk.
I don't know. He just kept embarrassing me with his trickery. His shots between his legs and long underarm passes. Like,
And for my next trick, I will sit and shoot a layup.
oh, I'm mortified.
He was a wizard. Behind the back, baby. I think are there any owner statues we'd like to topple? Almost every single one of them. Like Dolan, we should create a Dolan statue and topple it.
I would topple the hell out of a Dolan statue. Any owner, for the most part, can get toppled.
If Joseph Tsai, Ron Adive, you're gonna topple those? What about Michael Jordan? As an owner statue.
Does MJ need to be toppled?
I mean, let's think
We've
about
just watched
this.
The Last Dance. Did you end that saying, I won't topple his statue?
I don't think it's a toppleable offense. I think being a narcissist is not worthy of a topple.
We got to get a statue of the Orlando owners, the DeVos family, and just topple the hell out of those.
Is that Betsy's?
Yep.
Crew?
Same family. That owns the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, I mean, that could be a toppleable
Hell
crew
yeah.
for sure. No players deserve to get toppled.
No.
NBA players after 1996. There's not a single NBA player that deserves to have a statue of theirs erected, then toppled.
No, I agree.
What's up with your boy? What's up with this little green hand? Let's talk about this, man. Your boy, Kendrick Perkins, is going off.
What is it?
Paint the picture. Go.
Whoa. I remain bewildered. Why anyone who ever played on the Celtics can run their mouth and be ushered onto national television. It's remarkable.
Ryan Hollins, Kendrick Perkins, Shaquille O'Neal, classic little
Chauncey
green
Billups,
hands. Woo!
Celtic legend, number 3rd overall pick.
More like Mr. Little Hand.
It is truly a sight.
Yeah. All right. Here's my heater of a take.
Oh,
I
finally,
love it.
finally. Oh,
I love it. I love Kendrick. I love Ryan Hollins because they are like chum in the water for us sharks who have no games to talk about. So when Kendrick says something dumb, like, this guy should be ashamed, I'm like, oh, he's doing a thing. Whatever.
without getting like actually serious about this, because my real opinion here is like, why? Well, we know why. It's the Boston media mafia. Like, we know why this is happening.
Yeah,
but
he's a troll.
well, it's not just him. It's that if you are a former Celtic and you want to go on TV, you can do it. There is a pipeline from anyone who ever played with the Celtics to be a pundit on ESPN or on TNT or wherever. You will get a job.
Yeah.
Because ESPN is based in Connecticut.
And they have cornered the market. They had an interest in it. Like, they wanted to be the sports journalism capital of the world, of the U.S., and they are.
But it is wild when you think of, like, there's no, like, nuggets. Like,
Does
Chauncey.
the Nuggets beat?
But
Yeah.
it is fully insane that you have all these Celtics who are chosen to talk about basketball. It's really crazy. But I will say, Perkins and Ryan Hollins, like I know what you mean, like they're doing a thing, but they have not been, especially Perkins, has not been well received by players for the bullshit that he's been saying.
Your boy Wilson Chandler went at him. Yeah, because he's criticizing these players either for being soft or greedy. It's always the same spiel, right? It's this boomer thing.
Well,
It's like,
he's a cosplay boomer.
yeah, because he he looks and acts like a boomer. Kiss the chef, grill master, tactical sunglasses, but he actually played in an era, a modern era.
He was in the league like 3 years ago, but he's out here being grill pilled.
I mean, he at least he had the Last Dance take that reasonable people had, which is like, what the hell is this? But he's doing a thing.
But that's also because he's LeBron's buddy. It's not
Sure.
it's not an enlightened take. He's LeBron's buddy.
Right. Like the little green hand is a loyal little green hand, and whether you're loyal to your ex teammates or the city, it's usually one of the two, right?
But with the problem with allowing any former Celtic the platform of national television is that you do get someone like Kendrick. And he can be entertaining, but he is, I know you're like, well, he's good. He's so bad that he's good. Like, he's really bad. Like, really, really bad.
Yeah.
I think he's kind of a funny character. But, like, I don't know, man. We don't need to have another lousy dude's takes on television.
I mean,
I'm not,
but we're doing
don't
the wrong thing, right? Like, we are feeding this Kendrick organism by talking about him. Because it's kind of like, I don't want to be Pollyannic about this, but, like, it's kind of what we're doing, right? Like, we're debating and getting angry at people with terrible takes as an entire culture.
no, well, that's true. I'm not angry at Kendrick at all. I have no problem with him other than I find him, like...
I disagree with his takes.
I disagree with his takes. They're also just utter cliches. That's my problem.
Yes,
That's why I
they're
like
lazy.
Prodigy, man. Prodigy used different words.
But he was always the same and not funny. Can we get some funny Prodigy? Rest in peace. We cannot.
No.
Unfortunately, I'm sorry.
And that's a guy who also insulted me. Prodigy.
I think we've talked about this. Yeah.
I still think he's the best.
I towered over him in an elevator. I was wearing Doc Martens, and this was in the late 90s, but I've told this story before. I didn't know what to say to him, and I think I was trying to figure out what to say, and we were going up to the same floor when I interned at Sony for a hot second, and I was just like, big fan, man. He was like, thank you, have a good day. It was awesome. He's a very slight man.
A succinct and terse, yet meaningful encounter.
Yeah, man. I am not a tall man, but neither is Prodigy, so we were chilling.
I'm just waiting for like another team to get a whole bunch of representatives in there and just change everything that we have to listen to in basketball about like the Pelicans. Like, oh God, it's like 7 Pelicans on television talking about like
Well,
why
who could it
Brandon
be?
Ingram is like actually like a blooming superstar.
It has to be ex-champion. So Richard Jefferson's having... I enjoy Richard Jefferson, his commentary. Reggie Miller slipped by, but like... it can't be a New York player because New York has not had success. It probably will be a bunch of Lakers, right?
No, it'll be Celtics.
I know. It's just going to be
Like,
Celtics.
it's always going to be Celtics.
Until we start another network that is like owned by someone from LA.
I gotta say though, this Jason Tatum scam, incredible. just incredible. Like
It's unrelenting.
by the
man.
sheer force of will, they've talked Jason Tatum up to the point where people take him seriously as a superstar?
It is to such a fever pitch where recently I've seen him discussed as an MVP candidate. It's crazy. It's absolutely nuts, man. We never talked about Luol Deng this way, and Luol Deng was still better.
Martell Webster never got this treatment.
The ceiling is the floor. I mean, it's inexplicable, and there is so little pushback because it's like a song that you hear in a department store that you don't necessarily love, but you hum it for a week.
It's just this background fuzz of Tatum being awesome. He had a very good month this year, that's true.
Yeah.
And like, okay, quick, let's unspool a 7,000 word profile on Jason Tatum making a leap. Quick, quick.
Yeah. I mean,
here's my thing about him. He's good. He's good.
He's a good player.
He's a good two-way wing.
Yeah.
Good. Is he better than Paul George? No.
I know, right?
No. I mean, he's not.
No.
And Paul George isn't as good as Kawhi Leonard. So he's already not in the tier of superstar two-way wings.
He's a third-tier player, right? He's a reserve on an all-star team.
Yeah,
he's a third-tier player.
He's a volume scoring wing of average, like league average efficiency, who is a solid to excellent defender. That is a really good player. He can shoot. He can spread the floor. He's good. He's really good. But again, he's not as good as Paul George, and Paul George might not be a top 10 player. And Paul George is way better than him. Is a much better defender on the ball, much better playmaker. He can run pick and rolls. Tatum doesn't pass. Like, I don't know. Tatum isn't efficient. Like, he's like he's a fake star.
I mean, he's good. He's on the tier with Brandon Ingram, with Donovan Mitchell. Like Paul George is second tier for me.
I agree. Yeah,
and he's a wonderful player, man. When healthy, top tier. We're just talking about Giannis and LeBron, right? And then all the give me all stars like Chris Paul, Kyrie Irving. Those guys are second tier. Tatum is not on that level.
No, he's a good player.
Oh, I want to get to a take that you've been pushing, though. Is Ben Simmons a top 30 player?
Yes. Funny that you mention that. The interns have been getting it out there, and I have to say.
Finally, an hour 22 into the pod, we got to the meat of it. Go off, sire.
Yeah, I just came to the conclusion that he was a top 3 player.
There's numbers to back this up a little bit.
Well, it's a fact. It's not an opinion. I concluded based on evidence. You know?
He beat up a bad boyfriend of his sister, and he's an ethical king.
I mean, that's just frosting on the top 3 cake, baby.
Peacemaker.
All right, so LeBron's the best.
Yep.
Best of all time.
Easily, and currently the best player in the NBA.
Yes. And Giannis, despite being boomer-brained, the smooth brain of a boomer.
I thought you were going to say the smooth hand of the boomer.
The Jergens softened hand of the boomer.
Yeah, it's like taking that glove off. That powdery hand. That COVID glove of Giannis.
But he's great. He's great. And they are the best team in basketball built solely around his skill set. Like, It's great. Can't deny it. He's got the smooth boomer brain, but he's fantastic.
Yeah.
The hand of the boomer. But look, there are guys like Harden, amazing player.
Steph Curry. Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
RJ Barrett.
You know.
Mitchell Robinson. Go on. Oh, NBA. You're talking about NBA. Okay. Maybe one day the Knicks will be in the NBA.
No, if Randall can get into the league, he'll be in that conversation.
Yeah, if Bobby Portis can somehow get into the NBA, he's top tier.
Taj Gibson's like top 5. if and only if he's in the NBA.
Yeah.
But seriously. Guys like Harden, guys like Curry, unbelievable offensive weapons. but one side of the ball. They're not good defenders. They're okay to passable, sometimes not that great. They get targeted. They get exploited. Like, if you were attacking Golden State, you went at Curry. They would intentionally have to pre-switch to avoid Clay, who is a decent defensive player, getting
Another pod.
switched off.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Karl Anthony Towns. Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns, Luka Doncic. These are all players that people would put above Simmons. And I get that. But, like, Simmons is the best defensive player in the NBA.
I think so.
And my thing here is that, yes, you can look at, like, Joel Embiid or Rudy Gobert or Giannis. These guys who are great rim protectors. They make a real difference. Mm-hmm. But you can also scheme that stuff. And that's what Milwaukee is doing. And Brook Lopez is suddenly, statistically, like one of the best defensive players in the league. And is he?
Rebound. It really rewards his defensive rebounding, right?
Well, not Brook. Giannis. They've been fudging the numbers with Giannis's rebounds all season. So like that's why his defensive metrics have soared.
Some Russell Westbrook shit.
I mean, that's what they're doing.
Yep. Yeah. Fair. Whatever.
I mean, it's by strategy.
Sure. I love it.
Because they want him bringing the ball up on the break. So he suddenly just gets 4 more like rebounds a game. But I know this is a sidetrack, but I actually looked at the numbers, and what they've done is they have given him 20 rebound opportunities per 36 minutes, which is more than anyone in the NBA. And like, respect to the Bucks. We've talked about this before, that when the Bucks have a plan, they do it. And they're like, we want Giannis to have more defensive rebound opportunities than anyone in the NBA. And he does.
Yeah.
And
I heard analysis of a proposed playoff bracket, and a smart person was like, well, the Bucks give up the most threes in the league, so they have a weakness. And I'm like, that's by design. How come no one's talking about this? They're doing it on purpose. They're letting bad shooters shoot anyway. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll let Joel Embiid, who is a pretty good shooter. I think he shot about 34%, 35% from three. But they're content to say, Embiid, are you ready to take 15 threes?
Yeah.
And he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, he should be. To me, I'm like, dude, that's the best. You get to take 15 threes in a game. That's sick. Yeah. But he doesn't really want to do that.
Yeah, it's not in the character of a lot of these teams.
Especially the big guys that, as you mentioned, are allowed to shoot. But the Simmons thing here is this. I think he is the best defensive player in the NBA.
I agree.
You know, he is incredibly versatile, leads the league in virtually every disruption stat. And
yeah, he's a wrecking ball by himself, not by the system.
He can play the 5. He can play the 1.
It's awesome.
If the Sixers weren't one of the worst constructed teams in NBA history, I mean, which they are. Let's just be honest, they are.
Post acquiring 2 bona fide all-stars. The construction afterwards, because on paper, they have 2 bona fide all-stars.
Oh, for sure. But to have 2 guys who are the best tandem in the entire conference and end up being like a 6 seed, like because of the surrounding talent, because of the construction, is bizarre. Just a totally berserk roster construction.
You got a ball handling Bucatini on the court, man.
Who is this Rotini?
Who's this little Capellini on the court?
Rotational Rotini. But the way that the Bucks have said, oh, we're going to make sure that our huge power forward playmaker gets a ton of rebounds so he can push the tempo. The Sixers are like, surround our guy with power forwards and move him away from the boards.
Let me refocus this. Simmons.
There's a lot going on here, man.
I know. Focus on Simmons. Convince us.
Okay.
Convince our Patreon listeners. They pay big money to hear you.
Here's the argument. Here's the argument.
Yeah. Okay.
He is the best defensive player in the NBA because his defensive skill set is incredibly rare. Every team, virtually, has a good rim protector. Mitchell Robinson, fantastic rim protector. Epic. Clint Capella, every team has one.
Swiss chocolate.
They're all over the place. Yeah. Like Nerlens Noel doesn't even start, and he's a god rim protector. That commodity of rim protection is no longer that rare. That's what centers are. Sure. They're not Jahlil Okafors rolling around. Cantors don't play. No, every single center has rim protection abilities. That's what they do. So in turn, teams have shifted away from challenging them. Like it is a depreciating asset, even from 2 years ago. Like think forward here, right? 3 years ago, you're like, whoa, rim protection, you got to have it. That's true. But now look at the Bucks. They just stick 2 rim protectors in the middle of the paint and let you take threes. Mm-hmm. My point here is there are a lot of guys who can do what Brook Lopez is doing in Milwaukee. You can get rim protection if you want it. It is not hard to find. You can't find a defender like Ben Simmons. They don't exist. There's one.
Does that make him enough to be a top 3 player?
So I'm saying he's the best defensive player. I'm just making that claim. Offensively, here's the argument for him. If you add up his points, his assists, and you include turnovers, he doesn't create the most of anyone in the NBA, but he is the most efficient. Points per possession. When you add up his assists, because he assists on so many threes, his own scoring, because he's highly efficient himself and he ethically dunks, and you subtract his turnovers, he is the most efficient offensive weapon in the NBA.
Creates the most threes.
So that's what I mean. You get a guy who creates the most threes. I think when Embiid was out, he averaged something like over 20 a game on a shooting percentage of 65%. Like, that guy's unstoppable, man.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Like, I'm just saying, if you have the best defensive player and the most efficient offensive player who generates the most valuable shots, that guy's really good.
Yeah. And I value innovation. And to me, he is a step into the future where we are not wasting our time. Like, you know, the Last Dance was, the crescendo was Michael Jordan was great because he lived in the moment. And what that meant was he didn't let noise dictate the course of his, to getting to his goal, the line to his goal. Whatever, Jordan didn't do that. I don't give a fuck. I don't think he did. He got lucky. He was great too. But Simmons plays like that in an offensive scheme. He takes a direct, oh man.
Whoa, drop a bomb on him.
New York is serenading this take with some bombs. He takes a direct line to the basket, which I think is so obvious, but we don't really see it play out over and over and over, play after play with him. Yo, man, this is like a beginning of a mixtape, man. Like a classic New York City Canal Street mixtape. Kuoluminati.
But that's... Look, I'm a Sixers fan. I am biased. I acknowledge this, obviously. But I don't say this about other guys. Like, I'm not talking about other players. I'm talking about one player. Ben Simmons is the future. He does shit differently. And that's why I will defend him, because he is so unfairly attacked for bullshit by people who don't see what's happening. He is the future of the sport. And the Sixers need to build around him. And that can happen with Joel Embiid. That's fine. But they need to build around those two guys properly. And if they do that, they will win multiple championships. Those guys are that good.
Yep.
Like, what they have done in Philly is rob the team of potential championships last year and this year. They've done such an abysmal job putting the right guys around those dudes. I think, in my opinion, they have two of the 3 best players in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, for sure. It's like going to the supermarket when you're starving. You just end up buying like ziti burritos and like rice samosas. It's just like, that's what I want. I'm starving. Is that pizza crust stuffed with a bagel? I'm taking it.
It's fucked up, man. You keep getting all the fireworks.
Meanwhile, it's just like a sound effect I have on a sampler.
Like, my takes weren't good enough. It's like just pure silence. Then you start talking about...
It's a whole mood over here, man.
Start talking about like mini burgers inside a burger, and it's just fucking John Philip Sousa over here.
Streets love my takes, man. Well,
I'm glad we got to the bottom of that. Ben Simmons top 3. You heard it from the interns first.
It's the best thing, and we'll keep on revisiting this, man. I mean, this NBA content keeps on rolling. No burger bubble, and we're just at it, man.
Cookies.
Perfect fun.
I love cookies.
Patreon.
I love cookies.
I got a bomb.